Toothfairy, the best healer in the game, is finally returning to Reverse 1999, but not in the way that we expected. In the CN iteration of the rerun, it was straightforward, nothing fancy, just a basic rate-up banner we are all used to. However, what we are getting in Global is instead a separate double rate-up banner with Centurion tagging along, which begs the question, is this banner really worth your pulls? Hence, in this video, I will break down my reasons for why I think it might be your best option to actually skip this banner and what is instead a better way to maximize your bag of clear drops. To kick things off, the most obvious problem with this rerun is the banner mechanics. Typically, in a normal rate up, you have a 50% chance to obtain the featured unit, and if you were to lose the 50-50, you would get the featured unit the next time you hit a lucky 6-star roll. However, with the banner we are getting, you only have a 35% chance to obtain Toothfairy, with the other 35% being Centurion and 30% on a random 6-star standard pool unit. What's more, there is no guarantee you would get Toothfairy even if you ended up getting Centurion the first time round. This means that RNGs can just screw you over and give you Centurion endlessly while you cry for help. Furthermore, any PT built on this double rate-up banner does not carry forward to other rate-ups, which means that the popular Gamba shred where you throw 10 or 20 pulls to test your luck and get a discounted 6-star unit would be as good as throwing clear drops into the rain if you fail to get Toothfairy or even any 6-star within those Gamba pools. To make things even worse, Toothfairy's partner in this rate-up, Centurion, definitely gives you less incentive to pull on this banner overall. Centurion is definitely a top-tier Beast Afflictor's carry 4 patches ago, but in this day and age where single target DPS reigns supreme, Centurion can only be considered decent but easily replaceable, especially since Spatodia banner is also running alongside this one. If you haven't heard already, Spatodia is a single target DPS counterpart with similar power levels to Centurion as of 1.5, but has the potential to become far stronger than she is right now if you also pick up Isolde in 1.7, who functions as a reality and burn support. This also brings me to my next point, which is the fact that the era of power creep is upon us, and the clear drops drought would only get worse as the upcoming banners are all considered worth pulling for, making it harder to decide between which banner to skip and which banner to pull. One of the most sought after banners out of this all is the Chinyang's banner, which happens to come right after patch 1.5 in patch 1.6, putting it in arm's reach of this Toothfairy rerun. Speaking of Chinyang, she's definitely the best single target and AoE DPS in the game once she enters the picture, so I imagine that most players do not want to miss out on her unless they are completely anti-meta. Hence, comparing her banner to this mediocre form of Toothfairy rerun is somewhat unfair, but it's quite obvious which one people should prioritize. Another reason why you might consider skipping this banner is the fact that this Toothfairy rerun isn't your only way to get the best healer in your hands. In fact, you could get her off any 1.5 and beyond rate-up banners as she joins the standard pool in 1.5. This means that losing a 50-50 on Spatodia or Isra banner, for instance, could result in a surprise Toothfairy showing up at your doorstep. But realistically, this isn't the most common occurrence as it is only roughly a 3% chance, which is also the same probability as you getting Devibul or that lost 50-50. Now, of course, despite the various reasons I've provided for why this banner is less than favorable to pull on, I'm sure the reason why you are so torn on pulling on this banner in the first place is that you lack a healer to help you effectively clear content. However, things aren't exactly the most grim even if you were to skip this rerun. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the best upcoming banners to go for is the Chinyang's banner in patch 1.6, which also happens to feature a new shield come healer, Yenisai. And if you're thinking she's bad just because she's a 5-star unit, you couldn't be any more wrong than that. Yenisai is extremely strong as a healer and a shielder as she heals 2 units with beefy heals based on her max HP that she just so happens to have a ridiculous amount of for a 5-star unit. What's more, her heal also gives sturdiness to the primary heal target, which makes her extremely good for high difficulty content such as in raids where sturdiness is really favoured. Furthermore, her ultimate shields for 2 rounds unlike some other 6-star shielder we shall not name, and her ultimate also provides status immunity on top of that. Conveniently, she also shares the same afflectors as Toothfairy, so you could use her technically in the same content you would use Toothfairy. Now of course, let's not kid anyone, Yenisai is no Toothfairy in terms of power levels for sure, but she will at least tide you through until 1.8 where a new meta 6-star healer, Vila, appears. And without diving in too deep into her, no pun intended, the current numbers shows that when compared to Toothfairy, she's basically a better crit support, especially on mental teams, and also brings along more significant passive healing, though Toothfairy ages Vila out by being more passive and acting less. Hence, Vila is more suited for single carry teams such as pairing with Marcus, where more AP can be assigned to Vila, while Toothfairy functions better in double carry teams such as with the national team on Chinyang and 37. Ultimately, what I want to convey with the suggested alternative approach is that you do not 100% need Toothfairy. However, for beginners, there is definitely much more incentive to pull on this banner, as either Centurion or Toothfairy would greatly help you at the start, especially in clearing Limbo, which is in my opinion a top priority. Not to mention the amount of clear drops at your disposal is also much higher given the story chapters you can clear for clear drops. Hence, putting your starting roles in this banner is honestly a no-brainer. Regardless, this is just my take on the Toothfairy rerun, so do let me know in the comment section below whether you are personally pulling or skipping for this rerun banner. Also, one important factor that I've mentioned previously is that you need to consider the income that you have when it comes to clear drops to determine whether you are pulling or skipping on the banner. Hence, definitely check out this video over here where I break down the 1.5 pull income so that you can better plan your pulls. I'll see you guys over there. This is Corky Gachas, signing off.